What are some shocking discoveries they don't want you to know? Story 1. Schizophrenia may start in your bone marrow. One guy got cured of schizophrenia by getting a bone marrow transplant. Well, bone marrow transplant could change your blood type, so why not your mind? By the way, years ago, I got a nasty flu with pretty high fever, 39.8, for 2 days straight. After it was over and I recovered, my OCD was gone overnight after tormenting me for almost 15 years since childhood. I wouldn't be surprised if the case here is that the patient's renewed immune system after the transplant took care and cleared some nasty hidden viral or bacterial infection that was driving the schizophrenia. Hell, we know what toxoplasmosis could do, but there could be hundreds of other similar actors that we still know very little of. Story 2. There's a good chance there will be a cure for celiac disease within the next 10 years. There's currently an active and ongoing clinical trial where participants with diagnosed celiac are getting infusions that will ultimately reverse the autoimmune response a person with celiac has when they consume gluten. It's still far from complete, but we are closer than we've ever been to curing celiac disease. Story 3. Draco by Tom Ritter. 4 times PhD at Lincoln Labs develop a broad-spectrum antiviral. 100% success rates of survivability in lethal doses of all non-retroviruses tested, including but not limited to Ebola, dengue, flu, cold, and herpes. Yes, you read that right. Stands for double-stranded RNA caspase oligomerizer. It is a molecule that has 2 molecules bound together. The first half is a molecule which only bonds to dRNA. The second half is a molecule of DNA which carries the code for cell apoptosis cell self-deletion. It binds to only virally infected cells, and then the cell ends itself. It's the future. Story 4. Earlier this month, scientists were able to successfully weld glass and metal together using ultra-fast, on the order of picoseconds, which are such a short unit of time that compared to it, a full second might as well be 30,000 years, laser pulses. This hasn't been successfully done before, due to the very different thermal properties of glass and metal. This is actually a pretty big breakthrough in manufacturing and could lead to stronger yet lighter materials. Story 5. 2 recent studies were published regarding care of strokes outside of the 6-hour window. Up until those studies, we could only really do anything about an ischemic stroke if it happened within the last 6 hours. These 2 studies showed that, using various criteria, we could perform thrombectomy up to 24 hours from symptom onset with statistically significant improvement in outcome for the patient. Before, if a patient woke up with stroke symptoms, there likely wasn't a damn thing we could do. Now, we can actually attempt to clear the clot and potentially restore some function. And compared to our stroke care 10 years ago, which basically boiled down to, well, that sucks. And then, not having anything to do, stroke care has made some huge strides. Story 6. One of the more recent theories in psychiatry, gaining popularity, although it was acknowledged decades ago, is the role of inflammation in the immune system in mental illness. There are studies showing that in schizophrenia and other psychotic conditions, inflammation attacks the brain. Some of the damage by inflammation might be irreversible, so the hope is that early intervention could prevent chronic schizophrenia. Trials have been attempted with anti-inflammatories like fish oil, with mixed success. The role of inflammation has been extended to multiple mental illnesses like depression, with raised inflammatory markers and other evidence being a common finding. Ultimately, mental illness is multifactorial, and the causes are often biological, psychological, and/or social. So we can't reduce something so complex and heterogeneous to just an action by the immune system. But it has gained some excitement in the field because there could be people out there, for example, with schizophrenia for whom one of the primary causes is immune system dysregulation. And researchers are racing to find a prevention. Story 7. Don't know if anyone has pointed this one out, but pretty certain scientists have discovered a new species of orcas that live in subantarctic waters. They are calling it the Type D orca. Pretty cool looking animals. More rounded heads, smaller white eye patches, taller, narrower dorsal fins. Being a soon-to-be marine biology grad, This excites me. Story 8. Astronomers here. Most of you have heard that the universe is expanding. Astrophysicists believe there is a relationship between the distance to faraway galaxies and how fast they are moving from us, called the Hubble constant. We use the Hubble constant for just about everything in cosmology, to be honest. This isn't crazy and has been accepted for many decades. What is crazy is, if you are paying attention, it appears the Hubble constant is different depending on what you use to measure it. Specifically, if you use the standard candle stars, Cepheids and Type Ia supernovae, to measure how fast galaxies are speeding away from us, you get 73 plus or minus 1 kilometer per second. If you study the earliest radiation from the universe, the cosmic microwave background, using the Planck satellite, you get 67 plus or minus 1 kilometer per second. This is a lot, and both methods have a lot of confidence in that measurement with no obvious errors. To date, no one has come up with a satisfactory answer for why this might be. And in the past year or so, it's actually a bit concerning. If they truly disagree, well, it frankly means there is some new, basic physics at play. Exciting stuff. It's just so neat that whenever you think you know how the universe works, it can throw these new curveballs at you from the most unexpected places. Story 9. Göbekli Tepe, ruin discovered in Turkey that dates back to 11,000 before Christ, or further. This throws a massive wrench into our understanding of what people were capable of at that time, and hints at advanced civilizations having likely existed long before we thought they did. It has also only been about 10% excavated. I've actually read some articles over the past few weeks about archaeologists using LiDAR technology to uncover Mayan ruins, and they've found that Mayan civilization was much more extensive than originally assumed. At its height, it's now believed that its population may have numbered near 15 million citizens, and that they engaged in extensive trade with their neighbors to the north and south. These LiDAR scans have revealed evidence of vast cities, farmlands, and roadways, and this was all without any pack animals or wheeled carts. Story 10. Archaeologists have uncovered a site that was formed within minutes of the time the Chicxulub comet hit, proving that it really happened, pretty much as expected, and slaughtered millions of animals immediately through both fire and debris from the sky and an enormous tsunami that ripped through the North American inland sea. This is probably going to remain the find of the 21st century. That's how amazing it is. Story 11. It isn't just the bee colonies that are dying. It's all our insects. Recent research and predictions are saying that our insect populations, particularly that of butterflies and moths, are on track to extinction in 100 years due to pesticides and climate change. If our insects continue to decline, we will see a cascade flow into other animals, birds, etc., including our own species. Environmental scientists are saying we're at the beginning of a mass extinction event. Truly terrifying, and very little is leaking to the public via mass media or being mocked as a conspiracy theory. Story 12. That the brain of a person with misophonia shows the sound processor is directly linked to the emotional response center. As somebody with misophonia, I hope the bloody stars neurologists and ENT doctors start taking more notice of this, instead of pawning us off on psychiatrists, because most of them think we're nuts. Editing to add the link which talks about misophonia and greatly expands on my oversimplified description. I can't reply to everyone tonight as it's 4:04 a.m. for me, and I need to sleep, but I'll do my best to reply over the next couple of days. I watched the documentary via Amazon Prime. Thank you to every single person for commenting and asking questions. This is how awareness is raised, and awareness leads to research, studies, breakthroughs, treatment, and help. So many people suffer with this condition and think they're crazy. They feel like crap when people say, it's all in your head. No more. Story 13. CRISPR. If it was 1970 and someone told you that in 30 to 40 years, your entire life would be dominated in every conceivable way for the better by a computer, the most frequently used will be a mobile phone that fits in your pocket. It will have more computing power than the most expensive supercomputer of the day by factors and only cost a few $100. and basically everyone in the developed world will have one. Being told that the biggest shift in our society since the Industrial Revolution will be starting in about 5 to 10 years. It will be so profound that it would alter the very fabric of our society and change the way it works at a fundamental level forever. Would hearing about it once every other month, if that at barely a topical level, really cover the gravity of the situation? CRISPR. Story 14. We may soon be able to finally predict earthquakes. Chilean professor Enrique Cordaro from University of Chile has discovered a way to predict earthquakes a month or more before they happen. It's a completely different technique from the usual measuring plate tectonics, which gives info when it's already too late. It measures the magnetic field of Earth instead. He has replicated his results in Mexico and is teaching people from Japan and various other countries, but is struggling to get all the needed equipment and keep his full research team to further refine the method. He was doing an awareness campaign on Chilean TV a few days ago because this is a big deal and could save millions in the future. Story 15. Fibromyalgia syndrome has only been taken seriously by the medical community in the last few decades. Even today, sufferers are often misunderstood or told that they must be faking their symptoms or are just being lazy. Symptoms may include chronic pains of all types and levels, cognitive dysfunction, chronic fatigue, and more. Fibromyalgia can impair the sufferer's relationships, ability to work, and overall quality of life. Fibromyalgia syndrome shares many symptoms with other disorders, such as lupus, chronic fatigue, and MS. Researchers at Ohio State University's College of Medicine have recently published results that they have found a fibromyalgia biomarker. This not only validates the validity and existence of the often invisible disorder, but it could also potentially lead to a diagnostic blood test. I'd get up and dance for joy, but I have fibro and can't without risking a flare. Story 16, CAR T cells. This has been out for a while, but to me it is super exciting and offers great promise for a subset of cancer patients. In the US, there are currently 2 FDA-approved CAR-Ts, essentially T cells which normally fight infection in the body and help eliminate bad cells, are removed from the body of the cancer patient and engineered to specially express a receptor which can target the cancer cells. There has been great success in using CAR-Ts in hematological malignancies. See here the story of Emily Whitehead. She was sent home to pass, and years later, here she is thriving. Story 17. A thorium nuclear reactor the size of a shipping container cannot be made into a bomb and does not produce radioactive waste. It can even burn old radioactive waste to get rid of some of our current stockpile for a little more energy. There is no current market for thorium, but we have tons of it because it's found in the same mines as other metals used in advanced tech. There isn't really a market for it yet, but at the current price, enough thorium to power everything you'll ever need for 100 years costs less than $1. Not just electricity, heating, transport, building your house and car, and all the products you'll ever need manufactured. And we have enough of it to power humanity for another 1,000 years. Not even that recently, a small group of scientists built the first prototype that couldn't yet produce energy but proved it was possible. Over 2 years on an extremely low budget back in the 60s. They ran it for 5 years with no hiccups. However, no one really understood the magnitude of what these guys were doing, and Nixon canceled it before a version that could produce energy was completed. Part of the reason this isn't big is it's very hard to get investment into nuclear power these days. Although very different from our current methods, it is still a controlled radioactive substance and seems very high risk. Also, the people who are working on this tech don't want a government or single company to have ownership over this machine as they truly believe with it. You can solve the world's energy crisis and don't want that to be a chance for someone to take advantage and use it for excess profit or control. Story 18. A new quantum physics experiment just lent evidence to a mind-boggling idea that was previously limited to the realm of theory, according to the MIT Technology Review, that under the right conditions, 2 people can observe the same event, see 2 different things happen, and both be correct. The significance of this is that it refutes Some important aspects of the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. It is not observation that collapses the wave function. The cat is dead and alive, and the cat is dead for one person and alive for another. This means that descriptions of quantum states only have value in terms of relative states between particles and that there is no objective quantum state. The implications of this are massive and have philosophical consequences. It means that objective reality does not exist. That reality is simply relative, and that my reality may not be your reality. Story 19. Cold fusion is being proven and commercialized by scientists. The media is not picking up on it, likely because of its controversial history. An Italian inventor named Dr. Andrea Rossi has developed a power-generating device called the ECAT, based on LENR, low-energy nuclear reactions, more colloquially known as cold fusion. In its current form, the device has a QOP of somewhere between 50 and 60, meaning for every unit of energy that is put into the system, 50 to 60 units of power are generated, a phenomenal amount. The reaction does not produce radiation in any significant damaging amount, has no harmful products, including no carbon emissions, does not produce any harmful waste, radioactive or otherwise, and runs on a minimal amount of fuel composed of hydrogen, nickel, and lithium. A small amount of fuel produces enormous amounts of energy. I have been following Dr. Rossi and his company, Leonardo Corp, since 2011, watching them go from experimental research to having the LENR reaction independently confirmed through third-party peer review around 2014, to releasing their first commercially available units to customers in the US and other nations just 2 months ago. This is truly a revolution in the making, yet something the regular media has barely picked up, likely because of its roots in being a controversial branch of research. Story 20th. Hearing loss advancements. The Regain Project. Damage to the hair cells in the cochlea, sensorineural hearing loss, is the major cause of hearing loss acquired later in life. The assumption has long been that sensorineural hearing loss is irreversible, because once the hair cells in the cochlea become damaged, they cannot regenerate. However, recent studies in animals with hearing loss have shown that new and functioning hair cells can be generated through local treatment with a gamma secretase inhibitor and improved hearing. Story 21. Not so recent development. There's a topical prescription cream and gel called Retin A that is pretty much the only thing that will reverse signs of aging. Literally, mountains of studies on how effective it is in preventing reversing aging in the form of diminishing fine lines or wrinkles, improving skin's overall clarity and texture, etc. So many things. It's an absolute miracle product. Recent development on the old development, they developed a new form of the cream that is even more effective at improving your skin's look and preventing further aging. It's a consensus in the dermatological community that Retin A plus sunscreen are the only effective forms of anti-aging products. All the random firming creams are complete bullcrap. Story 22. Cancer's turning out to be a metabolic disease instead of a genetic one. We've been investing billions into researching a cure in the nucleus of the cell when it's actually in the mitochondria. Specifically, the respiration of the cell is damaged. All cancers respire through the fermentation of glucose and/or glutamine. So, just get rid of those fermentable fuels and the tumor can grow. Also, all cancers can be reversed, if not cured, through a metabolic therapy treatment that includes a calorie-restricted keto diet, a drug called DON, and hyperbaric oxygen therapy. The prognosis of glioblastomas and many other cancers are pathetic. What does a 0% 5-year survival rate of GBM patients say about our current standard of care? 97% sounds a lot better, doesn't it? Story 23. Starting in 2013, there's been some progress on the twin prime conjecture. Somebody found an upper bound for the minimum span that holds for an infinite number of prime pairs, and the bound has since been improved. The hope is that it can be improved to 2, solving the original conjecture, in the near future. Also, in 2013, biologists discovered a sort of bizarre giant virus. Unlike other viruses, which are extremely inert on their own, the Pandora virus has a vaguely cell-like structure and may be capable of limited metabolism. It also shares very little genetic code with any other type of living organism, suggesting that it may have branched off from the evolutionary tree very shortly after life began. As of 2016, there's a planet known to be orbiting our closest neighboring star, Proxima Centauri. It is more massive than the Earth and probably tidally locked to Proxima Centauri, but parts of its surface may be of suitable temperatures for life to exist. As of 2017, we may have detected a moon orbiting an extrasolar planet, and it's a big one. The planet itself is around 10 times the mass of Jupiter, and the moon seems to be roughly the size of Neptune. The moon probably has a thick atmosphere, within which some layers may be of suitable temperatures and compositions for life to exist. Just this year, scientists found a very bountiful Cambrian fossil bed in China, said to rival Canada's well-known Burgess Shale Formation. Story 24. A Canadian PhD physicist, Ned Nikolov, recently concluded a peer-reviewed study that indicates that the current greenhouse effect model we are using may be wildly inaccurate and a driven factor of other variables instead of a driver's previously thought. He used NASA data on about a dozen different planetary bodies and was able to empirically develop equations that can quantitatively and accurately calculate previous and current planetary temperatures. The big deal is going to be in 3 years or so, when he will be able to compare his calculations with independent data being collected right now from celestial bodies that were not part of the study. Story 25. Antisense oligonucleotide, ASO therapy for previously untreatable genetic conditions. Basically, strands of designer DNA or RNA that bind to the relevant mRNA of a harmful or faulty gene, preventing it being translated into the harmful, faulty protein. One has been shown to significantly reduce the CSF levels of neurotoxic protein responsible for degeneration in Huntington's disease patients, and is the first therapy aimed at addressing the cause of the disease rather than just managing symptoms until a slow death inevitably comes. Most of my understanding of it is in relation to Huntington's, but similar therapies are being developed for Parkinson's and other diseases as well. Story 26. Diagnose Parkinson's 15 years early. Diagnose TBI, movement disorders, concussion, autism, and many more with excellent accuracy in less than 5 minutes. More accurate than a physician, cheap, painless, reliable. Neurologists have known for 100 years that eye movements can be used as a marker of brain function or dysfunction. It is why a neurological exam, or a roadside sobriety test, includes the Follow My Finger test. In the last 20 years, camera and computer technology has progressed rapidly enough to make eye-tracking devices cheaper and more reliable. Now, tests are coming out that can diagnose and differentiate 30-plus neurological disorders, such as Parkinson's, traumatic brain injury, concussion, autism, and many more. These tests take 3 minutes, are non-invasive, painless, cheap, and reliable. One company, Right Eye, has even developed a product that is completely automated, from data collection to diagnostic output. Imagine having a reliable neurological diagnosis of brain health from something as simple and automated as the blood pressure cuff at CVS. This is the future of modern medicine. Story 27. This isn't necessarily cutting edge, but no one seems to be talking about it that much. Plant-based sulforaphane has been shown to be a powerful anti-inflammatory agent with a wide variety of health benefits. A previous commenter mentioned the role of inflammation, sometimes caused by a high sugar diet, in mental illness. Apparently, sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts has been shown to be as effective as Prozac in combating depression in mice, simply due to its anti-inflammatory properties, as well as decreasing the amount of bad bacteria in the gut. Feel free to research this for yourself, as there are many benefits to this compound. And start eating more cruciferous vegetables, which have the highest bioavailability of sulforaphane. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, screen name Found My Fitness, has been an effective communicator for this compound, so check her out as well.